A lot of people have been asking me to do a review comparing the 2011 Ducati Diavel Carbon that I own versus the 2016 Ducati XDiavel S. And so here's the video. It's just taken me a while. Sorry about that. As you can see, these two bikes do not exactly look the same, although their name is very similar. That causes a lot of confusion. Alright, let's go over the numbers real quick. Obviously, the 2011 Ducati Diavel Carbon has a little bit more horsepower, a little less torque, the compression ratio is a little less, engine size a little smaller, but it's faster and weighs less, costs less as well. So looking over at the brand new 2016 Ducati XDiavel S, you got a little less horsepower, and the horsepower comes on at the same time. You got torque coming on at a lower RPM, 8,000 RPM for 90 foot-pounds of torque for the 2011 Ducati Diavel Carbon, and you got 95 foot-pounds of torque coming on at 5,000 RPM. The compression ratio is 13:1. It's a little higher. That's pushing the limits at 91 octane in our garbage California octane fuel. And then over here we've got a little bit more expensive bike, and it weighs a little bit more. Now I'll start this review going over exactly where I did the test drive, and I recommend anybody who is going to purchase a bike go for a test drive, especially if they have events like experiences. This is Hot August Bike at A&S Motorcycles over in Roseville, California, and it was very educational for me. I'm not huge into historic bikes. I've only been riding since going on 20 years, and so therefore I have very little experience in elder bikes. My family wasn't exactly into them, so watching people kickstart old bikes, watching one-cylinder bikes go off, and watching different things like BMW sidecars, Vespa scooters, etc. was very educational. It was awesome to see a myriad of different bikes, including older Ducatis, which is always nice to see. Now, it was pretty cool to show up and find out they had a show. I specifically came to A&S Motorcycles for the purpose of the XDiavel experience and to test drive it and see exactly what it was capable of doing, which is one of the benefits if you ever have a chance to do a Ducati experience. They'll let you push the bike past what you think you are able to do. And I mean, normally when you go for a test drive, say you take out a Corvette, they kind of have you baby it and they get angry at you if you push it. That's not the case with these experiences. But when I showed up, I saw a plethora of different bikes, different years. The youngest I saw was in the 40s, so it was really cool to see everybody's enthusiasm for two-wheel hobbies. You know, it spans generations, and everybody was here for the same purpose, and it was really cool. So I bought my Ducati. Obviously this is not my Ducati, but I bought my 2011 Ducati Carbon. This is my bike right here. I bought this, I saw it online in Long Beach. I'm in Sacramento, Northern California, and I flew down, bought it on the spot, and then rode it all the way up in one day. It's a long ride, but I loved it, and I've been in love ever since. This kind of spurred the concept of me doing a review between the two bikes. I had a Suzuki Marauder 1600 before it, and obviously it's a huge difference in bikes. Comparing the two is apples to oranges, and now having two Diavels sitting next to each other, it seemed like the perfect time to explain the differences between the two. So I'm going to go ahead and let the Ducati publicist go ahead and review some of it, and you're going to see him talk right now.
XDiavel S. My name is Alan Lane. I do not work for Ducati. I own Sport Bikes Inc. magazine. I'm a journalist and a publisher. So I get to ride a lot of cool bikes all over the world and get paid for it.
How do I get your job?
You don't want to be me. You want to be me on Friday and Saturday night. Come Monday morning, you want to give it right back. But Ducati asked me to be a part of the tour because I took delivery of the first XDiavel S in the country in March down in Daytona. And I live in Philadelphia. I had to get her home, so I rode her. I stopped to eat, use the restroom, and refuel. It was a great ride. Now 2 months later, I rode her down to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina for a bike week. Had an even better time because between those 2 trips, I had plenty of time to really take her out on a few dates, get to know her, and she's my best friend right now. Love her dearly. Her name is Sheba. She's at home in the garage right now. I have a Panigale S. I also have the 748 and the 749, and also being a member of the press, I have about 5 other bikes in my press pool right now. This bike has made it very difficult for me to do my job. Every day I fully intend on riding the other bike that needs seat time. I walk past her, she calls my name, we spend the day together, and the rest is magic. So, the XDiavel S is Ducati's first true cruiser, okay? The engine, 1262 cc's, 156 horses, 95 foot-pounds of torque, and she weighs just a little bit over 500 pounds. So the power-to-weight ratio is significant, okay? Now, as far as this bike being a true cruiser, what makes it a true cruiser? The bike was engineered from the ground up as a cruiser. Forward controls, a belt drive, it's lower, it's longer, it's leaner. It's got cruise control, there's self-canceling indicators, it even has Bluetooth Wi-Fi connectivity with caller ID. The dashboard, if you have it paired with your phone, if someone's calling while you're riding, it will actually flash and tell you who's calling. It's pretty fantastic. A lot of technology in the bike. The bike is nimble, it's self-aware, if you want to say. It's very intuitive. The bike's intuitive. It's very sure of itself, which translates to you guys having a greater rider experience. The bike knows what it's supposed to do. All you got to do is get on it and ride it, okay? And the words that I'm saying to you right now, again, just words. When you get on it and you experience the bike for yourself, you'll say, okay, wow, that's what Alan was talking about. Who are my sport bike riders here? Any sport bike riders? Oh, this guy. Okay, so if you guys are used to having either your controls right below you, please keep in mind, these bikes have forward controls, which means when you sit on it, your feet are going to go down and in front. Every ride, just about, we've had somebody doing this, trying to find the controls. All right, so just remember, your feet are down and in front of you, okay? If you take a look at the rear tires of these bikes, you'll notice that what we refer to as the chicken strips are very nil, very small, because the bike leans in very well. You don't have to muscle it at all. As I mentioned, it's intuitive, so it's very responsive to your input. I'm going to give you over to our guys as soon as they're paying it. All right, Big Sexy, here we go. All right, this guy and Josh right here, these are our control riders. They're going to get you out on the road. Please pay attention to what they say. It's important, their instructions, and then I'll get you acclimated to the bikes, take you guys out and have some fun, okay?
Now here's where we're all lined up. We're ready to go ahead and ride the XDiavel. They line us all up. It's actually a really cool experience, and everybody's watching as you line up. He's counting up the people. You turn on the bikes after a quick tutorial and you take off and you follow this guy. So you're between 2 different riders. They call them Big and Sexy. You follow the 2, so the guy in front of you, you can't pass. The guy behind you, you can't go slower than. So it allows some safety. But other than that, the rules are out the door. As long as your insurance can cover the bike, that's pretty much it. So this is a new mounting technique that I'm trying, so bear with me. The sound quality isn't very good. It's a GoPro skeletal frame, and it's mounted to my shoulder. So I bump it with my helmet from time to time. First time getting onto the freeway, the thing I noticed quickly was that the lean angle was definitely comparable to that of my Diavel. The lean angle was actually really good. With a 240 millimeter rear tire, you definitely would not expect that. I noticed that the Termignani exhaust that I have on my bike is quite louder than the Termignani on this S, but it is very loud, and I was surprised when they told me that it's actually California legal. I kind of laughed at that. A lot of bikes nowadays have been so silenced because of noise pollution, but I'm a firm believer that loud pipes do save lives. So I was quite happy when I got to play with the throttle on the Termignani exhaust on the 2016 XDiavel S. We're sitting here, we're going through Roseville, and we go through a bunch of twisties, etc. I leave it filming the entire time, and I'm able to take you on this ride and show you how thorough this test ride really is and why it's such a unique experience and one worth doing if you are looking for a new bike to go out to a Diavel test ride or a Ducati test ride of any other bike. So it should be said that during these experiences, these test rides, you're going to be riding with other riders and you have no idea what they're capable of. With this ride, I was with 9 riders, so that would be 8 riders and myself. So with that being said, you don't know what they're capable of, you have no idea their experience, and you have to keep your situational awareness on like full tilt and full alert because you have no idea what they're capable of. They could all of a sudden hit you or cause you to get hurt. Right here you're going to see this guy go ahead and do a safety stop. He's going to count up the bikes, make sure everybody's together and we're not lagging anybody behind. And then after that, he's going to go ahead and take off and let us experience the bike. So right here we're able to experience the full power of the bike. This bike does have traction control, it does have ABS, but if you push it too hard, just like any other bike with enough power, the front wheels will come up, and it happened about 3 times during this ride. And then you do feel the traction control kick in and it starts to baby the bike. Now there's 3 levels to the bike. You got urban, you got touring, and you got sport. With my bike the same thing. So urban is about 100 horsepower and the throttle response is nice and smooth and allows you to kind of get used to the bike. The traction control is full on, ABS is full on, and it will impede your riding if you're trying to push the bike. And you go into touring, you get the full horsepower, but again the throttle response isn't quite all the way optimized. Then you got a little less traction control, a little bit less ABS. Then you go sport, you get all the horsepower, full throttle response, a little less traction control, a little ABS. You know, that's the mode you want to be in when you're flooring it or if you're doing wheelies or trying to do tricks. I did notice on my carbon that I did get less gas mileage on the sport than I did with urban or touring. I don't know if it's because I'm having too much fun or if it's due to the tuning. I really, honestly, that's not a factor I had when purchasing the bike. Miles per gallon was not a huge deal to me. For those that want to know, I get about 40 miles per gallon on my bike. Alright, so here we are cruising through the Roseville area, and it gets into some country roads. And coming up, there's going to be some slow turns where we get to do some lean angle bends and really experience what this bike is capable of doing. Some of you may be asking, what is lean angle? Okay, lean angle is the bike's ability to turn left or right, or lean left or right, without rubbing pegs. Okay, so with your typical cruiser, your Harley, your Suzuki, all your big boy bikes, right? Any bike that typically is called a cruiser, when you turn left or right, very soon you will find that the pegs will scrape, and that leads to a phenomenon called scraping or pegging, where you can pogo the bike or drag a peg and rip a peg off. It limits your ability to turn. Why is that important? Well, the faster you go, the more you can lean, the quicker you can turn, which gives you not only fast capabilities, but emergency capabilities. In a typical cruiser, you can't really turn that tight. You'll see bikes slow down very slowly before they make turns because their turning radius is very poor. On these 2 bikes, so your XDiavel and your Diavel Carbon, the lean angle is between 40 and 41 degrees, which is great for any cruiser. That's up there with, you know, the Gixxer and normal crotch rocket bikes where you'll see them drag their knee during races. Very similar, which is an amazing feat for Ducati to get with a 240 millimeter tire in the rear and the general look of a cruiser. Now, with all these good things, let's go over a couple of negatives. First one is the chassis. The structure around the tank is too similar to that of a Monster, which is a far less pricey bike. I'm not a big fan of that look. I like how my Diavel Carbon's got it covered and it's seamless. I think if they had gone with a more traditional frame, maybe a lighter structure or a lighter metal, it would have pulled off the same look and housed the engine in a beautiful and functional way, something similar to that of a V-Rod. I'm just not a fan of that particular chassis structure. The second thing I didn't find very pleasing was the taillights. I think they underplayed them far more on this bike compared to what I see on my Diavel Carbon. I love the way they just made the Diavel Carbon's taillights stick out. They look aftermarket. You don't have to do anything to them, and they're amazing. These ones are very underplayed on the XDiavel, and I'm not sure I'm that big of a fan. Now, the third thing that I found I didn't like was the power delivery. It wasn't very smooth. Now, I was expecting this bike to be essentially a different packaged Diavel Carbon, and it isn't. It's a different engine, different structure entirely. I think they did a good job, but I'm hoping that it's the tuning, the fact that it was set to urban, that it was underplayed, and the power delivery smooths out as you go to sport, which is the setting I have on my Diavel Carbon. Now here we are pulling back into A&S. You arrive, there's 11 bikes total, you got 2 safeties, 9 riders, and you arrive with some loud bikes and everybody's looking at you, and it's actually a really cool experience. It's like a parade. Everyone's looking at the bikes, they want to know more. You come in, you go straight through the little show. We're going to come around, A&S is right in front of us. You turn around, you follow the safety straight on through, and you line the bikes up, and you're able to lounge if you want. In the shade over here they have a big screen and they have a bunch of couches. So you pull in, just don't be that guy or girl for that matter that loses the key fob. If you do, you have to replace it, and it's like $500. So here I'm gonna cheat. So this is video of a camera mounted ride on my Diavel Carbon to give you some sort of reference between the XDiavel and the Diavel Carbon. I've got the GoPro mounted right above my headlight, and it gives you a really good vantage point. First thing you'll notice is it's a lot more nimble, or at least I feel it is, and it's extremely loud. I love my Termi exhaust, and I'm not sure my neighbors do, but I really like it. I do believe loud pipes save lives, and my pipes are quite loud. So you pull in, this is the Veterans Ride. I'm going to put a link for this ride in the description below if you want to go ahead and watch that. It's a pretty cool ride or video. Over here, it's actually pretty entertaining. The bike to my left is an M109R, so that's comparable to the the VMAX, the V-Rod, etc. I was looking at those bikes before I was looking at the Ducati. I ended up getting the Ducati. I didn't think originally I could afford it, but I love that bike, and I'm glad I did purchase it. So one thing people always ask me is, what's the maintenance like on a Ducati? So one thing you have to realize is just because you can afford a bike, or a car for that matter, doesn't mean you can afford to keep it. So a lot of times what people experience when they buy used exotic cars like Ferraris and Lamborghinis, or they buy a Corvette, the maintenance is very expensive. Now, how expensive is the maintenance on my Ducati Diavel Carbon? So the first maintenance structure that I've had to deal with was the 7,500 mile service. So at 7,500 miles, it was about $350. That's not that bad. And then I went ahead and did the belts because I didn't know how old they were, and it was running up on the 2-year mark. So I went ahead and replaced the belts too. So you're talking about $400 or $500 total. The one that gets people is every 15,000 miles. So 15,000 miles, 30,000 miles, 45,000 miles, you have to do a valve adjustment. These valves are high revving Desmo motors. Now what does that mean? That means that essentially they're a solid roller cam for a hot rod. You have to adjust the valve clearances every 15,000 miles, and that service is about $1,500 to $1,800. Now it depends on how much you ride, but as long as you budget it out and you have it in your mind that that's coming, your bike tells you it's coming. It'll tell you how many miles you have before your Desmo service. So as long as you budget it, you'll be fine. If you don't, you think that it's going to be a regular tune-up, a couple $100, you're going to be in for a big surprise. But I love it. I love my bike. Now, would I buy an XDiavel? And the answer is yes and no. Yes, I'd buy it if I had a second bike. No, not particularly right now, because I don't plan on getting rid of my Diavel Carbon. I love the bike. I plan on keeping it for a long time. Right now it has 10,000 miles on it. I bought it with 6,000 miles on it, and I've only had it for 5 months. I love the bike and I love riding it. I ride it very often. So one thing I do hope that this bike and the Diavel Carbon have started to do is create competition. So when you have competition, you have progress. And you've got a couple of bikes in this market, the muscle cruiser market. You got the M109R, the V-Max, the V-Rod, that have stayed pretty much the same bike for years upon years. Something like this is a game changer, and it allows the competition to realize what they are actually capable of, and hopefully these companies step their game up and create a different product. Now I want to thank those of you who have taken time out of your day to watch this video. I hope you like it. Please subscribe. If you subscribe, I'll go ahead and keep making these videos.